them are more than pals.
Our show can be a little gay,
But if you're not,
that's okay.
you can listen and have fun either way. Xena, Star Wars, Doctor Who, guests and music and reviews. Game of Thrones, Wynonna too. We promise there's something for you. She nerds out. We're girls that like nerdy things. Nerdy things.
Hello and welcome to the She Nerds Out podcast. I'm Kat.
I'm Wendy.
And this is Tara.
On today's episode, we talk to Nora Dominick from Buzzfeed. She is our sister from another mister.
That's the truth.
We talk all things television, some of the things that we love talking about. She loves talking about too, and it was a really fun interview, so look forward to that.
I think we could have gone another hour.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she is us. We are her.
Exactly. She is us. We are her. I want her to be my friend. So let's see.
Are we not good enough, Kat?
No, it's not,
Yeah,
it's not that.
wow, okay.
It's not that.
Fine.
Was the Cat and Nora?
Why don't you just go be with
podcast
Nora
starring
then?
Cat.
Nor Cat. That's our
Just
our
go on.
ship name. We have some mail. We're gonna read through some mail. But
Our little males. It's like a manageable
it's a
sack
nice
this
little
week.
sack today.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
It's a healthy sack, you know what I mean?
Okay, then. What day
Wendy,
is it?
what day?
Let's move on from sack talk.
You brought it.
So-
You said it was small.
Yeah. So starting on the 17th, it's National Pack Rat Day. I feel like
No.
from a family of pack rats. So I appreciate that day. The 18th, National Visit Your Relatives Day. Check. Just did that last
Nice.
week. So I don't need to worry about. Oh, May 19th is hurting. National Devil's Food Cake Day and National May Ray Day. It only has 2 dates. Maybe we can do a campaign to get National Snot Day on the 19th because it only has 2.
Oh.
That's an underserved day.
What was the second?
Oh.
What was the other one? It's what date?
National May Ray Day.
What is that?
I'm
May
checking that
Ray?
out. May Ray. If your name is Ray or Ray R-E-E, give everyone permission to call you, Ray.
Somebody made that shit up.
Basically, anybody that is weak. Celebrating people. The idea is everyone may call you Ray on this day instead of hey you.
What?
Or sometimes
What?
maybe Rays get called sweetheart or not so.
What the hell?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what that's about.
What?
Ugh. Let's move on. May Ray Day. Somebody just pay a lot of money for that, or maybe they didn't pay any
Doesn't
money.
even make sense.
bullshit.
You know what's a better day? No, it's a better day. May 20th. You know why?
Why?
National Rescue Dog
Yay.
Day.
Oh, yay.
National Rescue Dog Day. There's other things, but really, what else do you know?
I got to get a dog, y'all. I'm hurting.
know.
Fiending for a dog.
Maybe you'll meet one in the UK.
Yeah, that'll be easy. Bring it back.
It's so easy to bring, the dog back.
Super.
hmm
Super easy.
Super easy.
Oh, how did I miss this? The 15th. Well, because it's today that we're recording, but it's National Chocolate Chip Day. I had to mention.
Nice. Solid.
I mean, Devil's Food Cake on the 19th isn't nothing. Like, that's...
It's not
More.
nothing. I'm just saying there's only 2. Most of these I look at, I only read 1 or 2, but they have like 5 or 6.
Mhm.
I mean, there's usually several, but this one only had 2.
Come on, May.
So
Step
just-
it up.
All right.
May 19th, get on. May 19th.
Well, I've got some dates that I'd like to talk about.
Oh,
This is
was
Tara.
it a good date? Where'd y'all go?
Yeah, well, tell us all about it.
Not that
What was
kind
she
of
like?
date.
Oh.
Not that kind of date.
Megan
guys.
Scott
Did you
Yes.
kiss her?
Oh, well, come on. These are dates on my upcoming Snop UK tour.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But I think I will be joining a dating app.
Oh, dear.
Well, can we please?
Maybe when I get back
can
from
we,
America.
can we make that a segment on the podcast?
Can we please?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
please
I'm
do.
sure that's going to really help me with my love life a lot.
I mean,
that's
By
what
the way,
everyone wants it to
everything
be
that
broadcasted.
Tara, could it hurt?
Everything
could it
that
hurt?
happens on this date is
Damn, Kat.
I'm sorry. I'm in a mood.
I like how
okay?
you stopped and you got my attention. Hey, wait, Tara.
This is not a
Couldn't
throw.
hurt.
This isn't a throwaway line. This is good. You're gonna love this. Sorry, Nora's got me all worked up. I'm so sorry.
Wow. Wow.
So anyway,
My
your
dates,
in the
my
UK.
dates coming up in the UK that are not actual dates, but dates I will be there.
Well, maybe you'll
So-
meet somebody over there. Who
got some more specifics. Special thank you to AK, Suze, and Martina that have been helping me plan. And
Nice.
if you guys could see the emails going back and forth, it's like, maybe we could do this, but maybe also this, and then maybe this also.
I'm
And
so
then
jealous.
what can we, but it's just all over the place. And then like, that's how I send it. And then it, they send things back. That's like, yes, okay. And then it just looks, it's more together.
Is it a group thread? Or
No, not yet.
Ah.
Yeah, I've just reached out because each of them were kind of in different spots in
course.
England. So that's how it started. But already it's like coming together more, whereas before I had no clue what I was doing. So thank you, everyone. Been very, very helpful. So if you're in any of these areas, please reach out to us, shenerdsout@gmail.com, because I'd like to meet you on one of these dates. That is not a date, just a date. But I will be in or around Glasgow, Scotland from June 13th through the 21st. Or else let's say the 20th, because I'm leaving early on the 21st. I'm driving for sure now, for sure. Martina has assured me that it's not so hard to drive on the other side of the road.
It'll be fine.
So, yeah, it'll be fine. So I'm driving down to Shibden Hall.
Oh, shit.
Shibden Hall from Glasgow on the 21st. We're going to take a tour. So the evening of the 21st, I'll be in York, England, UK.
England, okay.
Yes. So the evening of the 21st, when I'm thinking like a dinner, like a meetup type thing.
Okay.
And so if you're around that area on that day, let me know. Might just end up being Martina, Suze, and I. That's fine.
Sounds great to me.
So that's my northern stop in England. Okay.
Tara in the north.
Winter is coming. And then on the 22nd, on the evening of the 22nd, I'll be in the Oxford area, which is down south. So that is my plan. So if you're in the north on the 21st or the south on the 22nd, let me know. Let's meet up.
Huge. Amazing.
Or I'll be in Hamburg, Germany
Whoa.
on the 24th and 25th.
Hey-o.
If you're around there. Anyway, that's it. Hoping to get some folks.
Nothing at all. That's it.
Exactly. That's huge.
I mean, I'm just kind of breezing through the UK, specifically to see core snop tarts.
Got it. Like you have your anchor snop tarts.
Right.
And you're hoping that other snop tarts can join.
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So please don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Don't be timid.
Don't be timid. Yeah, I'd love to see y'all. But I'm very excited. It's like a month away now. Ha! Freaking out a little. I'm like, I have to get a COVID test, and
Oh boy.
yeah, I don't know. I'll figure that out.
It's gonna be great. You're gonna have a great time. And we're gonna hear all about it. I can't wait.
I almost had a mini Dallas snot meetup
Oh.
because we talked about Jackie on the last
That's right,
podcast
Jackie
and
and
said, "Hey, if
Buster.
y'all are in Dallas," so I reached out and she had a lot of family stuff going on, a lot of things during that week, and I was incredibly busy during the week too. And like the one day he said maybe you can meet up was Thursday, and I'm like, that's the day I'm basically at my house and replacing toilets,
Right.
and that's like the one day that the person who lives there was off work, so it just didn't work out this go round, but
Yeah.
maybe next time.
It will.
Oh yeah, Neek's down in Cornwall. It's like 3 hours I learned from where I'll be in Oxford. She's way down south, so I'm not going that far. But yeah, anybody out there, shenerdsout@gmail.com. Please.
Please. You sound so desperate.
Please.
Please.
People are gonna.
I'm
show up.
risking my life to drive on the wrong side of the road to meet you all. Please come and see me.
You'll be
You
fine.
just gotta, get your foot ready to drop those anchors, right? You're gonna slam those anchors.
Drop those anchors. I'm going to be dropping the anchors a lot.
Just follow the car in front of you. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Let's hope they know how to drive. Let's hope they're not also Americans.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Well,
Hey guys, let's jump into our old mail sack.
jumping into the mail, Doc. All right. Well, I'll start off with.
Okay.
I got really excited about that. Didn't
Was that a snort,
It
cat?
was a snort.
Ooh, we got a snort out of
Wait, cat,
Nice.
cat.
Oh no.
It couldn't hurt. Get it? Because your love's so bad already. Do you get it?
Tara, I want to apologize for my comment earlier. It was insensitive. Sometimes I have to learn that just because something is funny doesn't mean I should say it. And I,
Wait a minute.
and I-
What did
and
I
I
miss?
apologize.
Was I gone?
No, you were right
it just
there.
happened.
I mean, maybe it didn't happen. I don't know. Maybe it gets cut
I don't know
out.
what y'all talking about.
It happens. No,
know
I
what y'all
apo-
no, it won't
I'm
get cut out. You
sorry.
can't cut it out just
Tara, I'm sorry.
because you insulted. No,
I'll make it up to you.
I forgive you.
How can I make it up to you?
Well, on the 21st of June, you can buy me a beer, cat.
Deal. Do you want to ride from the airport? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
By the
I'll
way,
do it.
I got in yesterday to LAX and Tara said, "Can you just take the bus to the place near my house?" and I'll
Okay,
pick you up
okay.
there?"
We need to revisit the
She
fact
did
that
take
I
me to the
was
airport a week before,
watching cat sitting her cats.
There's like 50 cats.
And that's a lot.
And I had taken her to the airport the week before after
Yeah, it
she
was
had brought
stressful.
the cats to my house. And it took a long time. And we were literally driving next, Chris Trigger, literally driving next to the flyaway shuttle bus
Right.
from Nice, which is literally 1
Literally.
mile from my
Very
house.
close.
And we followed the bus all the way down in traffic.
It was like we
there's
just kept
the bus.
passing.
We just kept passing it. And then they went ahead of us in the airport because then they get to go in the special bus lane. So they beat us.
So
So I was like,
Jokes
fuck that.
aside,
You're going
it-
to take that
it
fucking
is much-
flyway shuttle
That's
back.
amazing.
it is much more efficient getting on the flyaway shuttle, I will say. Although I missed the first one and stood at the closed door watching it drive away, then I had to wait for the next one.
It's the worst.
And then the bus itself was, in Contact, where she's sitting in the seat after she's gone up in that pod, and it's like she's like shaking everywhere, and she sees the compass go by, and then she unstraps and she gets out and floats.
Yes.
Well, the bus was like in that seat before she gets out. And she's like,
no.
"Ah." It was the bumpiest bus I've ever been on. That being said, I mean, it was, the ride
Which
was
is
fine
weird
other
because
than
it's a
that.
nice bus.
And
It's
yeah,
not
it's
like
not
a
an
school
old
bus.
rickety
It's like
bus.
a coach, like nice.
Something, maybe it was just the road,
Yeah.
but I remember on that
Yeah.
bus,
Probably
I'm
the road.
trying to look and I'm texting Tara, whatever. I'm like, and I'm hitting the wrong keys. And it was that bad. I'm trying to lift it up to where it's not touching a body part, and it still wasn't.
Were you in the back? I feel like the back.
No, it was like middle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it wasn't a full bus. So maybe weren't enough people to like weight it down.
I don't know if
something,
that's a
but
thing.
I don't know if it is either. But anyway, where were we? Mail.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Off the mail sack because y'all said something weird that I didn't understand. I still don't. But I'll move on to mail.
Really, Wendy is listening to us. She's
I do listen. Then there was something. And
she insulted me,
I made fun
and
of
what she
Tara.
made, she wanted to make sure I heard it.
Oh,
I,
okay.
like, waited
Got
for
my-
there to be a pause, and then I brought
She
attention.
drew me
I
in.
brought attention to me,
Make sure I heard it.
and I made fun of her,
Yeah.
and I apologize. It was
I
not.
did miss
It was
that.
not nice. It was
Oh,
funny,
well.
but not nice.
Hey, as long as it's funny. As long as it's funny. Oh, okay. Well, here we go. This first mail kind of ties in what we were just talking about. From Beck. Hey, nerds.
Hey,
Get back.
Beck starts out by saying, 7 cats is so many cats to have in one house. It sounds like a dream and a nightmare all at once. If they're anything like my two, they will team up and take ownership of your house. You are severely outnumbered. True. 2 of them are fosters. I've had them since they were babies, and I still have them, and now they're grown-ups, but whatever. Something strange has happened this past week. I've managed to find time to watch grown-up TV. It's been so good. Tara, have you watched Russian Doll season 2 yet? It is you that likes it, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I have not
Still-
watched it though yet.
All right. Well, Beck says still so good. This season jumped right into it. I got super excited when Annie Murphy popped up.
Ooh,
I love
that's
her.
fun.
Oh, you do too. She is unfairly beautiful at the best of times. But I
She
gotta
really
say,
is.
that hair and those glasses really did it for me.
Interesting.
I was a little bummed that Nadia and Alan don't have a lot of screen time together, though. Kat, have you watched any of The Staircase? Do you know what that is?
Yes, I have been.
Is it a scary ghost?
It
or
is. No,
what is
it's
it?
no ghost. We talked about it. It's based on a true life, like
Oh, is that the murder
true
thing?
crime story? Yeah.
Oh,
then-
that's right.
Oh,
There's a-
where they push it. Okay.
There's a
That's
documentary about it on Netflix, and then they
Okay.
made this movie. It's on HBO Max. It's on a movie. It's a miniseries. It's really good. So they incorporate the documentary into the movie. It's so good. It's so good. And Colin Firth is incredible. He becomes this guy, and because you've seen the documentary, you can appreciate how he is turned into this man. It's really good.
I'll have to look into that. Beck says, I've watched the first 3 episodes, and that's all that's out right now. There's something comforting in watching something when you already know exactly what's going to happen. I'm really enjoying it. I like how it has scenes shot directly out of the documentary. I don't like Colin Firth in this, though. He plays gross too well, and it makes me uncomfortable. But on the plus side, Toni Collette, I would watch her fold laundry.
Yeah.
Okay, this next part of the
good.
email, I can only see part of it. So I'm going to scroll slowly because it's talking about Doctor Strange.
think
So
there's-
if I see anything spoilerly,
Yeah, I think you're okay.
have you already looked
But
at
yeah,
it?
we'll
Okay.
definitely keep an eye on that.
Okay. I also had my bro date to see Doctor Strange this week. We carpooled and took 2 cars. So I got to the guy's house and knocked on the door. He let me in for a bit because I was a little early. Thanks, anxiety. Anyway, he's a young guy, so he still lives with his parents. No shame in that.
No,
sometimes.
nothing wrong.
So when I walked into the living room, they're just chilling on the couch. I was half expecting a shovel talk. After 5 awkward minutes of small talk with them, we were on the road to get the next few guys. When we all met up at the car park at the cinemas, one of the boys from the other car shyly gave me flowers and a box of chocolates because it was Mother's Day.
sweet.
How cute is that?
These are some nice bros.
I
bros.
know. When we got inside and we're ordering our food and drinks, the waiter said to me, "And who will be paying for that?" As if I was on a date. This isn't the Bachelorette. It's not some kind of group date, weirdo. Also, I was dressed peak gay. I had a hoodie under a flannel shirt under my denim jacket
Nice.
because it was cold. Yeah, that's a good
It
look.
is a
I
good
like
look.
it. My beanie and my rainbow volleys. One of the guys had never seen me outside of work before and even said, "So you're like really gay, huh?" Yeah, man, I am. Also, one of the guys fell asleep in the super comfy recliner. He paid $50
Whoa.
for a
Wow.
2-hour
50
nap.
bucks.
Yeah, wow. He had worked early that morning and isn't the hugest superhero fan, but we all gave him so much shit. It was a good night. The movie,
Hold on.
the movie was so damn good.
Yeah.
I loved every second of it.
Okay.
It definitely felt more like the Wanda show than a Doctor Strange movie, though.
Nice.
I think this may be my favorite Marvel
Oh.
movie now. I have so much to say for it, but I don't want to risk spoiling it for anyone. Go see it. Thank you, Beck, because we haven't seen it, but we'll soon. The streak of grown-up watching is officially over now. As I write this email, the TV is playing Coco Melon. If you don't know what that is, you're lucky. Love you guys. Beck. XX.
Thanks,
Coco
Beck.
Melon. Now I feel like I need to
I
look
think
that
it's a
up.
kid's show.
I'm sure it is, and it sounds like it's probably annoying.
All right. I got one from Hildy. Hildy says, "Hey," spelled HEI, and goes on to say, "I wrote hey, HEHEY, but autocorrect always changes it back to the Norwegian way of spelling. So now I just go with it." So we're learning a new word.
I like
now
that.
we know.
I like it.
Listening to your Gentleman Jack recaps is just top-notch entertaining. I'm walking and laughing. It's a real struggle. It also makes me want to watch or rewatch Vigil with Saran Jones. She is just great in that TV show, too. I recommend it if you're a crime fan. Oh. Yesterday, we saw Love Classified, and I have to say it's probably the best Hallmark film I have seen. The story felt more authentic in a Hallmarky way and was just enjoyable to watch. And the mother's reaction, "Do not get a nurse. My daughter's dating a doctor." This is really funny. I wanted to recommend The Owl House to your Snot Pod parents listeners. It's a fun/crazy animation show with queer representation that is entertaining for both young and old adventure nerds. It's on Disney Plus.
Interesting.
Another thing on Disney Plus. That's cool. Obi-Wan is right around the corner now. Can't wait to watch it. And all the more so. Listen to your recaps.
Ah.
Oh, we will have them.
Keep on nerding. I will be listening, Hildy. And Hildy sent a picture. It says, "This is the fjord we live by." The name of that, Hardanger Fjorden.
Hardigan Fargan.
Sounds right.
And the
it's
picture is stunning.
I mean,
you know, it looks a lot like Banff, and
it does.
you know,
You're absolutely right.
and yeah, I mean, it's like
call.
lakes and very beautiful tall mountains that
My
reflect in the
goodness.
lakes.
God damn
Oh,
it.
there's a goat getting milk.
Hildy, stop coming for us, okay?
A baby goat. The baby goat's frolicking. Oh my god.
Now,
there's another-
Oh,
now you're just showing
mountain
off.
lake.
Yeah.
Bondesvadnet. Whatever that mountain
Yeah.
lake is.
that's right.
Bondesvadnet.
And then about the lambs, it says we're bottle feeding a couple of the lambs. The mother doesn't have enough milk. She had quadruplets. Congratulations.
My goodness.
Aw.
Yeah. So cool.
So cute.
Thank you, Hildy.
Yeah, Hildy, thank you. Thanks for
Those are
upsetting
adorable.
us with the beauty
That-
of where you live.
Those snow-covered mountains and that water, that's just, to me, that is paradise right there.
Mhm.
It's gorgeous. Hey guys, I have an email from AK.
All right.
Hey.
AK writes, "Oh, hey guys. Fancy seeing you here.
Hey, Kay.
You have only yourselves to blame for the following crime against poetry. Writing limericks is no skill of mine, whilst I manage to wrangle rhyme. For the bloody odometer in the shape of a podometer, alas, it just feels asinine."
Yeah,
It's pretty good. It's not bad.
nice.
Any
You didn't
poem
really
that can
read
work
it like
in
poetry slam style, which I feel like
Oh,
a little bit of
should I try it
injustice.
again?
Odometer, pedometer. Do
Yeah.
it again, but dramatic.
Okay. I like slam. I'm going to do slam poetry stuff.
Yeah.
Writing limericks is no skill of mine, whilst I manage to wrangle rhyme. For that odometer
No,
in the
bloody
shape
odometer.
of a podometer,
Mhm.
alas, is just feels asinine.
Oh, nice. Oh, you're right. Snaps.
Thank you.
Snaps.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
That is called Ode to AK.
Oh, nice. Really?
I don't want to sound unclassy or whatever, but I feel like if I ever really went to a live poetry reading, I would be one of those where like Tara and I'd be in the back and I would just start giggling and
Oh,
not
yeah.
be able to control it. Something would set me off.
100%.
But I appreciate the art.
It looks freaking fun, though. That look fun.
does look
Let's
fun.
read all of our mail that way
Okay.
now.
Okay. Do it. Well,
Go on, Kat. This is all you.
Well, AK continues. I'm not going to do that. Hearing you talk about dramatic letter reading made me think. This is a letter. You receive quite a lot of them these days.
Oh,
You
no.
have a YouTube channel. It seems very clear to me that since you are so fond of a dramatic letter reading, you're well placed to demonstrate the form. Go on. You know you want to. Admittedly, we're not generally sending lesbid dramatic declarations of undying love and angsty guilt trips for rejecting us. I mean, so far, given what you've read out. Maybe you get those all the time, but don't read them out. Who knows? So it'll be hard to act the full Ann-lister, but still, you could do dramatic reading. I feel confident. Maybe some dodgy prosthetic eyebrows would help you get into character. We'll think about it. Surprise bonus mail sack episode. I love it when I find you guys in my trousers more than once a week. Glad you've managed to get some air to your sack.
Oh, boy.
Thanks, Jackie and Buster. Though I'm guessing Buster is broadly indifferent to wordplay. Maybe he enjoys words like rabbit.
Oh.
I'm sure he's a good boy.
Oh, who's a good boy?
We're not pushing you into bushes for sport. Okay, here's this fucking word again. The tangential,
yay.
pretty good, fiasco had me laughing so hard a passing horse gave me a very disapproving look. I don't generally think of horses as snooty, but this one was being ridden by a serious-seeming person. Maybe their attitude rubbed off. Wow, way to upstage reality. Cheers, Tara or Wendy.
No, come on. This is Tara.
Come on, a peacock is still a surprisingly massive bird to find walking up the road directly towards you, especially if he's got his tail up, but it can't possibly compete with an ostrich. There was no ostrich, upstaged by an imaginary ostrich. I think that could be the title of my autobiography. Right.
Is the tail up on a peacock like a mating sign? Like
I think so, right?
he's coming for you? I think. Right. Yeah, please put that. The sound effect on the fake
Pretty
tail.
good, right?
That was. The hand motions really helped it.
AK, in conclusion, says, right, that, Okay, this is the name of a flower, perhaps? Peries? Perii?
Yes, it is some sort of a flowering plant.
How does one pronounce that word?
Let's find out.
Pierce?
Pieris? P-I-E-R-I-S.
Not one
Peries?
I feel like you want to go. Here we go. Pieris. Pieris.
Pieris.
Do it again?
There we go.
Pieris.
Pieris.
It's a weird word.
Hmm.
That Pieris is looking miserable. The soil is all wrong for it. It's coming out. AK. Thanks,
The
AK.
last little flowery note.
Love
at
it.
the end.
Thanks, AK.
We have one more mail.
Woo.
It's Bex again. Bex.
It's a Beck sandwich.
Oh yeah, there we go. Or Oreo or sandwich or something. Hey again, nerds.
Hey again,
Hey, Beck.
Beck.
Hey again, Beck. Just popping back in to say that you guys gave me major flashbacks to my high school years when you were talking about changing in the yurt. It made me remember awkwardly getting changed in a change room with a bunch of my classmates or even my friends at sleepovers and stuff. The golden rule was always look at the wall. I was always sweating bricks to make sure I didn't actually accidentally turn too early or see anyone. I was so paranoid people. I get this.
Yeah.
I was so paranoid people would find out if I was gay if they caught me looking or being outed by someone who did know if I got caught looking. It was a very stressful and awkward time. Thanks for bringing that back to my thoughts.
Yeah.
Love you, Beck. It was kind of stressful, in a locker room and kind of like,
Yeah.
even if you
Absolutely.
weren't looking, you didn't want someone to think, they probably had no clue, but then in your mind, you're just assume everybody,
Right.
knows
Yeah.
something.
That whole, I mean, I never changed in a room with people, like some girls just in the locker room.
There's always that one that would
Yeah.
just run around naked.
Yeah.
I was really good
Just
about
no.
changing, put on a shirt over it, take the shirt underneath off of it, pull it through the sleeve. I got really good at that kind of thing.
Yeah, same. Or I just be like, you know what? I'm going to the bathroom anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and take my clothes in here. Go ahead and change.
Yeah, might as well. Two birds.
Right. I never got the whole let's shower in front of each other thing.
No.
No, that's
No.
as an adult, that's like the last thing I want to do. I don't.
Yeah, that's
I
like-
don't understand.
Even as a gay person, I don't want to see no. That's not doing it for me.
No, it's not the thing. No.
Nope.
No, you just go shower. I'll see you later.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't need to do this.
No.
Well, that's it for the old mail sack. This
It's a
week.
tiny sack.
We're leaving it on some awkward lesbian memories.
Good times.
Let's talk to Nora Dominick again. She's a TV editor at Buzzfeed, and we have lots to discuss. Well, we are very excited to invite our next guest onto the Snop. She's a TV editor at Buzzfeed and a self-described Marvel nerd. I don't know what we'll talk about. It's Nora Dominick. Nora, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Yay.
So yeah, just kind of if scrolling through your Twitter feed, which is at Nora Dominick, it's really hard to find.
So difficult.
You could basically be the fourth podcast of this host.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Wendy made the joke that if you kind of put all of us in a blender, we
Yeah.
get you.
All of
I
our
love it.
interests, all of our passions combined into one.
I love it.
That's you.
So how did you? Let's talk about you first, and then we'll talk about some nerdy stuff.
Got it.
How did you get your start at BuzzFeed?
I was just an intern out of college, and I applied, and I had, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do after college, and so I just started as an intern there, and then eventually they realized, as you could probably tell, I love TV and movies and everything. So shocking because I just never talk about it. Eventually I was hired to their kind of TV and movies team, which was really great, and covering all stuff from there. And then it evolved into helping out with the celeb team and getting to, interview and help out in that capacity, which is so fun. So I've been there almost 5 years now, which is wild. But yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And then as far as your interests, do they kind of get to know what you like and say, okay, since you're watching these shows already, we're going to have you write about them? Or is it more like, hey, we need you to watch these shows so that we can have somebody writing, or a mix of both? How's that doled out?
It's mostly whatever you're interested in, write about it. So I'm all over the place. So it's a combo of like, oh, it started out where I was just like, oh, you still watch Grey's Anatomy? I remember having this combo.
Gray Sloan, as you can tell.
I remember just like being that, and like I was like, oh, can I write a post about like Grey's Anatomy? And they're like, yeah, like absolutely. And so it started out with that, and then I was writing more of like kind of, you know, throwback, like How I Met Your Mother had ended, and I was watching that, and Grey's Anatomy, obviously, like the OG seasons like were so big. And so I was writing a bunch of that stuff, and then I was like, oh, I kind of have this massive platform of BuzzFeed that they've given me, and I love all of these more niche shows as well, like Wynonna and Killing Eve, and One Day at a Time was really big. I wrote about that a lot, and I was like, oh, I have this massive platform. What if I do some of the more bread and butter BuzzFeed stuff, like writing about Grey's and writing about, you know, Stranger Things and those like bigger shows, but what if I take some of my time and really use the platform I have to kind of champion some of those smaller shows? So it's really just kind of a free-for-all, which is really fun for me because I'm able to, you know, spend a week writing about Marvel and then, you know, spend another week doing whatever. So that's been really nice, and it's been nice to just kind of get excited about a show and see if other people who read the site will also be excited about it. So it's a lot of fun.
I feel like you have our dream job.
I like
it to just watch stuff that you love and share your opinions about. It's kind of what we do here, but I feel like your platform's a little bit.
Yeah.
I always joke. I'm like, I don't know how I happened into watching TV for a living, but like that's where I've ended up. So yeah, nothing to complain about.
So I have a question here because I was just doing some Googling. So, because we like to talk about lists on this show.
Yes.
And like, you know, do we agree? Do we not agree? So when someone comes up with a list, because I just found a list of yours from a couple years ago about people who had chemistry on screen.
Yes.
So did you just think, hey, here are a bunch of people I like. I want to make a list of my favorites. Is there a committee? Is there polling? How scientific is this? Or is this just like, you know what? Here's a list of things that I want to talk about, like ranking of the like people with chemistry on screen.
Yeah.
I'm going to make my list.
So most of the time I come up with an idea. So like I love talking about like actors having chemistry on screen. That's something I've written about a bunch. And it's something I love to talk about, like casting and everything like that. So basically what we'll do is we'll, you know, ask the readers of BuzzFeed, like, hey, what are your favorite chemistry on screen? And then so I'm just compiling what everybody else. So like, if somebody really like, if one certain, you know, couple is mentioned like 10 times, I'm like, oh, that's a really big one that everybody loves. And when I write them, I like to balance it out where you have the, like, obviously the Meredith and Derek's of the world and the ones people know. And then I like to balance it out with some, you know, niche shows where I'm like, oh, if somebody's reading this list, just thinking it's about general TV, maybe they'll happen upon, you know, a show I love that they haven't heard about and want to check it out. So it's kind of that. So you'll see some of mine, like, we'll always have the username for whichever, you know, BuzzFeed user contributed. But most of the time in mine, you'll see I have my own name within because I'm like, oh, I need this person in this list and no one gave it to me. So I'll include it. So yeah, it's a nice way to like see what other people are talking about and reading and watching and then, you know, compiling it into a bigger list.
And then do you read the comments on the list that pop up?
I sometimes I'm not a comment reader. I just by nature, not to say like comments on my posts are abnormally negative all the time, but I just tend to not. A lot of times, like somebody I work with reads them a little more, and they'll be like, "Oh, Nora, like the comments on this post are so sweet and so cute," and I'm like, you know, I just don't. I don't read them.
It's probably smart.
Yeah, just in general.
You can
but
have the perfect list or the perfect article, but someone out there is still going
to be annoyed. And I found that like if somebody really likes something I've written, a lot of times they'll like DM me on Twitter or DM me on Instagram. And it'll be more of a like, hey, I just want to say like I loved this, that. And so I tend to read those more as opposed to, scrolling through the comments, because there are, and I always make sure at the bottom of my list to be like, we can't fit everyone. Like it's not personal.
Right.
I like literally can't fit everybody.
Yeah.
I can't sit here all day.
Like every list is 1,000 things. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't sit here all day. So let me know who else should be included.
Right.
And maybe I'll do another one down the line.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Because it is. It's like, you can't please everybody. But it's part of the fun is when you see the list kind of being part of it and saying, oh, well, no, I disagree, even if it's not something mean, but so it's part of the fun. And it is a lot of the list, especially on BuzzFeed, is, like, oh, well, that's the third time I've seen that pop up in a list. I have no idea what that show is, but maybe I should look into it, especially a lot of the queer lists that include like queer characters.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, I didn't even know this many were out there. Maybe I should look into that. So it's a really good way to raise awareness of shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do your friends that you spend time with, do they, like when we get together, we kind of talk about the same stuff we do on the things we do on the podcast.
Yeah.
But do they share your love of Mint? TV, film, the whole thing? Or are they like, Nora, can we just talk about dishes and kitchen remodeling or something? Or do they like to talk about
politics?
Politics.
All of my friends are big into TV and movies, and so I went to Emerson College. I went to school for film, so inherently we were all film and TV kids. And I did theater in high school, so it was like Broadway and like still in the same vein. And then now obviously like all my friends I've made at BuzzFeed were all into that kind of thing. And then I've made friends through, different fandoms and, high school friends. We all really have had the same interests. It'll be more so like okay, Nora, like calm down. One of those. It'll be, especially with Marvel stuff, it'll be like, I'm like really trying to like get my friends to be into it. I'm like, you haven't seen this movie yet. Can we like hurry the process along so I can talk about it? But most of the time it's TV, movies. It's basically what you would assume. Like we're all chatting about the same stuff.
Well, we all met because we were Xena fans. So and we share some, the same interests now for the most part. So it never stops.
Well, then I think we should just jump. Should we jump into some chatting about some TV stuff?
Sure.
Killing Eve.
Yeah.
The finale was a couple weeks ago. We're still talking about it.
Yeah.
It still comes up a lot. It sounds like you had watched, obviously you'd watched the whole series.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the finale?
I'm heartbroken. I think it was like I'm heartbroken is the only way I can describe it, because I consider Killing Eve one of my favorite shows of all time. And I've said it for a very long time. It's one of my favorites. I mean, I happened on it because I loved Sandra on Grey's and I was like, she's in this new show. I've got to watch it. And I was like, it's like, it's like, it's on BBC America. I loved Orphan Black. Let's watch this. And it's like that stream of watching it. And then obviously like fell head over heels for Jodie Comer and her acting and everything. So I think that's what was really hard about the finale was like you'd been on this journey for so long. And not to say every show needs an absolutely perfect happy ending. And I don't think Killing Eve needed a very perfect happy ending. I think everything was just crammed into that last episode. So it all happened very fast. So it was kind of like a whiplash almost of, you're getting this happiness and then 2 minutes before the credits roll on your favorite show and it just kind of it ends in that way.
They raise you up like, so high and then it all comes crumbling down.
I was on the peak of the mountain and then just really tripped down it. So I like there's moments from the finale obviously I love the Eve and Villanelle stuff, and it's the bread and butter of what made Killing Eve so good was having those two actors in a room and getting to do what they had to do. But it was more of and now the credits are rolling like right at the end. And I'm just like, now I'm sitting there for like 2 hours, like trying to contemplate what happened.
Were you surprised? Did you get any forewarning that what was going to happen. I not even looking on Twitter. I saw a post that didn't even have Killing Eve in the title anywhere. But it was just something that said enough to where I knew what was coming.
So the nature of my job, I get screeners. So I had actually seen the finale about a week and a half before it aired, because I was interviewing, people behind the scenes of the show for my job. And so I had seen it like a week and a half out. And I remember going to work, like having a check-in at work with somebody. And I was like, oh, I watched the Killing Eve finale last night. And they were like, oh, like, how was it? And I was like, I think people are going to be mad. I remember saying it. I was like, I think people might be mad. And, like people at work were like, really? Whatever. And I was like, just being so in tune to that side of TV. I was like, I have this inherent feeling. I was like, I think they'll love the moments that are great, but then they'll hate the moments that are not. So it was very much. So I had I went in completely blind because I was obviously a week and a half before everybody. Right. I hadn't seen anything on Twitter because I know like it was spoiled. I mean, you couldn't go on Twitter that day without seeing, even if it didn't have their names, like you could probably infer what show they were talking about and what was happening. So yeah, I went in completely blind, sitting by myself. And then I had a week and a half by myself being like, oh, and now everybody's going to want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this season, because I watched it as it went, and I liked a lot about the last season, but especially when you see where they ended up going. And like you said, the finale felt really cramped. I remember like 8 minutes left in the episode, and they're just still heading towards the 12. I'm like, they've been pursuing this all season, and they're saving this final confrontation for like less than 10 minutes left in the finale. It's like, how are they going to fit this in? But it felt like this whole season, there was a very concentrated effort to keep them at odds. Like I would have loved to seen the way the season 3 ended, them and some, even if it wasn't always perfect, this season, them pursuing the 12 together, or at least on the same side where you got to see a little bit more of them doing what they do together and being on the same sort of team. And, but it's just like either Eve was mad at Villanelle for something, then Villanelle was mad at Eve for something. And then she goes off to the island with that other chick for like no discernible reason. And Eve has to come rescue her. I'm like, you could have just had them together instead of just coming up with ways to keep them apart. And then it just made it harder. Like I said, when they finally had happiness for at least a minute, and then
for at least 1 minute. That's all you get.
Seriously.
2 minutes.
Yeah,
Maybe
2 minutes.
so.
I'll give him 2. I'll give him 2 minutes.
So why, and you said it, Nora, the bread and butter of that show was these two characters together in the same room. Yeah. Why do you think they, as Wendy has kind of, laid out for us, why did they work so hard against them being together in this last season?
I think the moments of Killing Eve, like even when you go back to season 1, like that cat and mouse game was so electric in those early seasons. So I understand from a writing perspective of them being like, we want to keep that. We want to keep that cat and mouse game. But I think once you hit this last season, we'd done all of that. We'd already done that. And so I think it was almost thinking too much about that and not thinking about like, well, maybe we could have a whole season where Jody and Sandra are just together the whole time. Maybe that could work. And like you could have started the season off exactly how they started it, where we had that bit of a time jump and we're like, wait, we just saw them on the bridge together, but now they don't like each other.
Right. That was very confusing.
Yeah. And you're playing catch up. Like I got that as just a trick of, writing for TV. But then it was like, now Villanelle's in jail, but now they're not together. Now she's shot and now I'm going to save her, but now we're not together again. Now we're together, but the show is now ending. So it's like,
and now one's dead.
And now one's dead and now they're forever not together. So great. So I think that's what made it harder that they don't end up together all the way at the end too, is we spent a whole season of them not really being together. Right. And then they got together and now they're not together again. I wonder if it would have felt like the nature of her dying would still have been awful, but I wonder if it would have felt different of it's like, well, we had 7 full episodes of them trying to live their best lives togetger and help each other. And now they're gone.
Yeah. I feel like I would have even, although I didn't hate the twist of like, it was Carolyn. Because I love Villanelle and Carolyn together. They were great. And then just the fact that Carolyn, for her, it's like, look, You have to do. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I think the whole last second of it, or even if Villanelle had gone out herself, taken on the 12. Well, Eve, for whatever reason, was just dancing it up at the wedding after party. I'm like, not concerned about Villanelle taking on the 12 alone. It's like, she did the ceremony. Okay, distract him. I don't know what the wedding party was going to do if,
Right.
you know, they didn't even know this was happening.
They weren't
But instead
undercover
of, like,
agents or something.
ceremony's
Yeah,
done.
they had no clue.
I'm not going to go find Villanelle. I'm just going to like, woo,
Yeah.
have a good time. And I feel like that whole thing was just like to show the contrast of Eve and Villanelle killing the 12.
But
and
like,
just things
we
like
get
that
it
made no
by that
sense.
point.
Literally,
We
Eve's whole
understand.
quest had been herself also to take out the 12.
Right.
And instead she's like, all right, take care of it, Villanelle. I'm going to hang
Right.
out with these people I don't know and dance. But,
I know. I did love the Carolyn. That was the gut punch too. The Carolyn
right.
twist.
Which that made sense to me. Like, to me, that
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I get it. Carolyn would totally do that as much
Like,
as she
I
likes Villanelle.
I
It
love
wasn't a surprise.
right.
It's
I
like,
think
oh yeah, that makes sense.
that was like I think that was like the best piece of storytelling in that was
Right.
the Carolyn gut punch because they just had the moment in the bar together, like, you know,
Oh,
where
yeah.
they're like best friends hamming it up. And so that was like, oh my God. But I really think it was a combination, like you said, of they crammed so much into the last like 10 minutes. Like everything that happened in those 10 minutes could have been a whole episode.
Oh, easy.
So yeah.
Well, okay. One more question about that.
Yeah.
So, or at least for me. But so when something like this happens, you said Killing Eve is one of your favorite shows.
Mhm.
Does the end cause you? Because a lot of people are now like, it seems like the ending doesn't go the way that they wanted, and it ends badly, and then all of a sudden it's almost like the whole show is just like, oh, just almost tossed aside. But does that diminish your love of the show, or do you just like, you know what? I'm going to pause it when they're hugging on the boat, and that's my ending. And I still love everything else as much as I ever did. Just cut out the last 2 minutes.
I obviously wrote about the ending, and one of the editors who edited my post was laughing because the final image in my post is them hugging, and I cut to the image of it just saying the end.
Yeah.
Like, this is how it. I was like, that's how it ended in my mind. Usually, when a show doesn't end, I watched Game of Thrones, but I wouldn't consider myself like a dying Game of Thrones fan. So for that, it's like it ended, and I was like, you know, maybe I'll rewatch it down the line, but whatever, it's over. I lived it. I think How I Met Your Mother, I loved that show, and that ending, I was like, oh my God, like how, like it's considered one of the literal worst endings on TV, and it took me a very long time to rewatch that show.
Yeah, I still
and, like,
haven't,
this year-
but now, yeah. But it was so good up until then. Yeah.
It was so good. And like, not to say that show is perfect, and it definitely has not aged well in
No.
places. Like not at all. But I loved some of those. I loved Robin. Like I loved Lily and Marshall. Like there are moments of that show that were so good. And literally this year was the first time I really sat down and like rewatched a whole season and was like, I can do this. So I think for Killing Eve, like I always like to take a break after a show ends. I'm like, I'm not going to jump right into a rewatch. Like it just ended. But I think I would rewatch it. And I had done rewatches of the earlier seasons in the past, like between seasons 2 and 3 and then 3 and 4. But I think it definitely sours watching that final season. I don't think it will sour the first couple because they were so good. But I think it will like, if I'm ever rewatching those first like 3 or 4 episodes and be like, oh, remember the end though? Like know where we're headed? Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a show that had a good, I don't want to say finale. It was a season 4 finale. But let's just pretend for a moment we live in a world where season 4, episode 12, was it 12?
Yeah, I think so.
Of Wynonna Earp is the last television version of this
Yes.
show that we ever get. Let's just pretend it's some weird bizarro world. How do you think they handled that finale?
I loved it. Again, that was another one where I had gotten the screeners and I had watched that finale like a month before.
no.
Like it was
Oh, that's
and my friends always laugh because they're like, how do you do it? Just like, how are you sitting there? Like beginning of this month, like in my brain, I was living in Multiverse of Madness before it dropped. Like I'm living in Stranger Things. Like I'm living like Hacks, The Flight Attendant. It was like May was so packed and I was watching these screeners beforehand. and I'm sitting here like alone with my thoughts. And so
you live in
Yeah.
the future.
yeah, I'm living in the future, and then I'm rewatching it with everybody to be like, I want to join.
Right.
Like, I want to be around. So Wynonna was one where I had watched it really far in advance, because I was interviewing, the cast and everything, before, it ended. I loved it. I think if in this bizarro world, that's all we ever see of those characters, I'm like very content. Like, I love where they ended. I love a happy ending. I was crying, but it was like happy crying tears. Like, I'm
Right.
like weeping, not because like I'm devastated.
It's refreshing. Happy tears,
Yeah, it was,
right?
It was kind of nice.
It's weird.
So yeah, I loved it. I actually have not rewatched it though since watching it live with everybody when it aired. I haven't been able to like go back. I don't know. But I did love it. I love where everybody ended up. Obviously, I think those are some of the like best performances on that show as well, which is sad because I feel like, not to say like Melanie and Tim and Kat and Dom weren't like, they gave great performances before, but it was like they were finally so in tune to their characters that those final performances are just like some of my favorite.
Now, getting the screeners, did you get a screener copy of season 4, episode 2 with the stairs?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
I think for Wynonna was always fun because I always liked playfully teasing everyone because I had watched it beforehand. And I was like, oh, this episode's coming up and like you guys have no idea what's coming. And I think I was like, my tease for 402, and it was just like the keyboard smash. Like, that's all I like put.
Nice.
And everybody was like, oh God, like what the heck is coming? I remember watching that and just being like, not stunned. I think it was more, it's also interesting because it's like, for my, like, I've met Kat and Dom in like a professional, like I'm interviewing them and we're hanging out setting, and then it's funny when you like are then watching the show and you're like, oh my God, like hello. But yeah, I did get 402. I did watch it beforehand. I think I'm still like what they were able to do with that was like so big for just TV in general,
Right.
I don't think we hadn't really seen a scene like that in general.
No.
And I think they handled it with such like care, and like I think like Kat and Dom felt very great doing it on set, and I think it was just it was a great thing. I think they were able to give everybody. That's what was kind of nice about season 4 was like, not that they were going in thinking that was the end, but they really made sure to hit every beat in case it ended up being. So I think it worked really well.
And do you
And it is iconic. Like, I think the legacy of that show, if in 100 years people are talking about that show, I think it will be because of not just that episode, but that way hot relationship and how
Absolutely
grounded it felt, even though there was in the middle of this like batshit crazy shit show, is that portrayal between those two women. But yeah, I think that's what the legacy of that show is going to be.
Even talking about Killing Eve, like writing up like why people were so mad about that, like the examples I pulled the Lexa example, obviously, of like, we've gotten past this, but now we've jumped back to it. And then like I pulled the bulletproof vest scene from season 1 of Wynonna as just an example of like, here's what you can do. And like talking about not reading the comments, really, I did scroll to the comments on that post, and it was like, oh my God, like what's that show? Like there's like, I always put screenshots from shows I personally love, hoping that maybe that is like, oh wait, Killing Eve did this, but what's that show that's doing that? I want to know what that is. So yeah, I definitely think the legacy of those two will be, heralded as like what to do and like how you do that in a very not grounded show, but they were still, very much tangible and real.
And then at what point did you become an Earper? Were you watching from the start, or did you get into it a little bit later?
So I came in watching live for season 2. I came in watching it for that. But I wasn't really live tweeting. I was kind of watching it at my own pace. I wasn't watching it live. And then I remember when I think it was between 2 and 3. They went to Comic-Con, and I remember there was this whole discussion about rebooting Buffy, and everybody was like, they want to reboot Buffy. And I remember Josh from Sci-Fi was like, reboot Buffy. There's already a reboot of Buffy, and it's called Wynonna Earp, and you should be watching this. And I saw that tweet, and it was getting a lot of traction, not just like within the Earper community, but other people were seeing it. And I remember bringing it into work and being like, can I write a post about Wynonna Earp? And I was like, I don't know how like well it would do in the grand scheme of everything, but I really want to write this and frame it as we don't need a Buffy reboot. This show you should be watching. And so that's when I really, I was like, oh, I can talk about this show using this platform and hopefully reach people that are watching the show or get people to watch it. So that was between 2 and 3. When I was really like, oh, I can, tweet about it and like get other people to watch it. I don't need to be watching this alone. Like there's other people that watch the show too.
So let's talk about, we'll go back and talk about sort of how to like Wynonna showed writers and producers how to portray, how you could portray a lesbian or same sex or queer couple, however you want to say it. And then look at Villanelle and Eve and how kind of people feel that's not how you handle that kind of relationship. And I know that you're not a showrunner, you're not a writer, but how do you think, as someone who is creating this story, how it's not fair to say that if you're a queer character, you have you have plot armor, right? Like that's not fair. Like there are some stories where that does make sense for a character. So how do you think that's those are hard waters to navigate? How can you kind of, because you read so much about these shows, can you what advice would you give to a showrunner? Like how do you figure out how to handle that stuff?
It's so interesting because as somebody that watches so much TV, like I never, like there's for a showrunner and a writer, like I can imagine there's such a fine line of like fan service versus let's continue the story we want to tell. And I just always think about sometimes your plan, you got to change it. Like there's just certain things that like, I always think about How I Met Your Mother, right? Like where they had to film that ending years before because the kids were going to be too old. So they had to film the ending of, Robin and Ted, and they could never in their wildest dreams have thought of, Neil and Kobe having this insane chemistry that fans loved. And so they were able to give that to you, but then they had to abandon ship and be like, well, we got to break them up because we already have our ending. And so that's on one hand, like everybody's mad because you've given us what we wanted and now you took it away. And I think there's just a way it's very difficult, I'm assuming, of riding that line of like, okay, Villanelle and Eve are such a great and strong couple, but we have this other plan where they're not together most of the time. But the chemistry between Sandra and Jody is so electric that we've got to lean into it a lot. And I think certain seasons you can tell they were really like, well, they can be apart, but then we've got to get them back. Like I think about the bus moment. And I think about I think about the bus. Moment. Yeah. And it came at such a great point where it was like, they've been away, but now they got to get back and they've got to see each other for the first time. And then they can depart, they can part again, but we know they're going to end up back together, on the bridge, the fall, whatever. So I think it's hard. And I can't imagine how you have all of these other opinions coming at you and trying to, throw that into a show. But I definitely think, at some point it's like, well, the fans want this, maybe we should try it, and see how it goes and figure it out. And I always think those are some of like my favorite, shows. It's like, I think like Dickinson is one of my favorite examples of, how to tell one of those stories. And I think they were just able to really thread that relationship where they weren't together the whole time, but they were hitting the beats where then they got together and it was great. And, you were able to give the fans kind of what they want. So I think it's hard. And I can't even imagine like when you're sitting there and like, cause I think about like TV chemistry and casting all the time, like sometimes you just don't know, like when you cast somebody and it's like, oh my God, their chemistry is wild. Like we've got to do something about this. And I don't think it's ever a good thing to be like, we can't do anything about this. Like, this is weird. We're just going to ignore it. But I love when they kind of are able to lean into it and change the plan a little bit.
Well,
That's always fun.
You never in TV hear people say, wow, these actors have great chemistry and they've got this great thing, but I kind of wish they'd stuck to the original plan.
Right.
You never hear that. It's always like, these actors have great chemistry. They should have let them continue. And it's like you said, sometimes I think story, and I think with Killing Eve too, they weren't helped. Didn't they have a different showrunner like every year? Mm-hmm. So you had no grand plan. And even I read that even at the beginning of the last season, they were like, should we kill one? Should we kill both? Should we leave them both alive? And they were kind of like, well, it's bigger stakes if she dies. Well, which again, she's in the line of work. It's not like, I don't think she and Eve are ever going to go live happily ever after in a little home. No. You could have still killed her and I feel like just done a better job of it. But there's, but a lot of times with these shows, they're so locked in, like with How I Met Your Mother, like here's our ending. We're going to end it like this. And sometimes things change along the way, especially when a show runs for a long time.
Absolutely.
Where maybe you should think, wow, this doesn't really fit the show that this is morphed into. But
I always think of Supernatural too, where like the season 5 finale, like that was the finale they conceived. Like that was it for them. And then they just happened to keep on going. Like,
for 50 more
forever. So like I watched it until season 5 and then I was like, well, that's the end they wanted. So I don't know what's going to happen after. And I remember peeking in obviously on the series finale like 2 years ago at this point. And like, I know fans of that show were annoyed too about what ended up happening and what they didn't do. And, I was never really in that fandom or watched it that religiously, but I could see like them being like, okay, you had your ending and then you continued. I get nervous about Grey's Anatomy too. Like this is another
God,
one.
no, we're going to get, yeah.
I get nervous that this was going to happen with that too. And it's just, the plans change. TV's and again, I think that a great example is this past week, like the CW, just like cutting every show, everything. Yeah. And it's like, you can either live forever or suddenly you're gone. And it's very hard to plan unless you're like immediately given that 2-season plan or 3 seasons, but even then you have no idea. So I think it's very hard. And to your point, like Killing Eve, I loved that they had a different female showrunner each season. I loved that they were able to give Phoebe her chance and then like Emerald her chance. And it was so great to see that. But then it's also hard to keep that through line going as far as you have to go.
Right. Yeah. On paper, that's a great thing to have, give opportunities to female showrunners, but they weren't on the same page, clearly.
Yeah.
And quickly, like talking about kind of having an ending and then going back and, kind of contributing more to the show. X-Files. You're probably too young for that one. X-Files.
Listen.
Well, Wendy and I are big X-Files fans. And how many seasons? Originally, was it 10 or 11 seasons?
I think it was 9.
Yeah, and then
the original run I think was 9, but that was a show too that you had this. Like probably the biggest like through line of that story was Mulder and his sister and like what happened to her, and it was a show again. They were just going to make them till the network said stop making them, and
Absolutely.
It was huge. So at some point they just. It felt like they were just making stuff up as they went along.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't based in reality anymore.
Well, hey, I don't care about reality as long as it's good.
Listen.
They just kept pulling things out. Like I felt like you had no real cohesive idea of what was happening with any of it, as far as like conspiracy. And then like he randomly found out what happened to his sister at some like couple 2-parter episode in the middle of a season, and then they just kept going. You could have like this big emotional plan for this ending, but it's like, well, we don't know how long we're going, and let's wrap this up and just keep making more things up. And then the original finale was just like horrible, and then they came back.
I was going to say they came back and did a couple, didn't they? A couple seasons?
2 seasons.
Two?
And it got to where Chris Carter, when you saw his name on an episode, you're like, great. This is going to be a convoluted mess. But I would have loved to have seen him come back with new writers, director, just a new voice to the X-Files. But
and you'd think that there was a new showrunner every season on that show, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Chris Carter didn't have a plan. He apparently these 2 rebooted seasons, he didn't have a writer's room. It was like here's a script, go write it. Here's a script. Like, I feel like they needed sort of a group in that room to say like, well, maybe we don't do that. I don't know. I just think it. So yeah, they come back for 2 seasons and reboot. And what became kind of the core of the episode of the season of the whole show was Mulder and Scully. And like, you know, talk about chemistry you didn't see coming. These two just I mean, for me, very iconic, and that partnership is, you know, one of my favorite parts of that show. And then you come at the very end and you completely crap all over the Dana Scully arc because of just like, what were you thinking? You know, like I feel like he didn't do those characters service.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm not gonna. I don't think I've gone back to rewatch any of those 2 reboots seasons, and I don't have any interest in doing that.
I never like to see shows go. Like, I get it so attached to them, and then I'm like sad when they're over, and I'm like, it's something I always will miss. But I always appreciate like Schitt's Creek. They had the plan and they stuck to it. They could have literally kept going for 4 more seasons. We could have been sitting here right now watching more Schitt's Creek. But Dan had that plan, and he was like, you know, we're very popular now, but I still want to end it. Like, it's still, I don't want to overstay my welcome. And I just, Dickinson was kind of the same way too, where it's like, we've, you know, 3 seasons are, you know, everybody loves us, but let's end while we're loved. And I think there's always something, you know, very, very nice about it, as much as I'm like, oh no, keep going. Yeah. I think it's like, it's nice when they see their plan and they know, like, this is it. Like, we can't keep going. It'll get too convoluted, or we'll run out of storylines, or we're just, you know, I think it's always like, you're now doing things to your characters because it's a show and you need conflict. So it's like, oh, we're going to break up these people because we've got to. And then they can't be happy the whole time. That would be bizarre. That's not fun. No one will watch that. So I always think about that too. Yeah. Where I'm just like, at some point, I'm like, just end it how you want to, and I will get over it.
So speaking of a show that's been on a long time and some feel too long, myself not included, is a little show called Grey's Anatomy.
That one.
Yeah. Very niche. You know, might not have heard of it.
No one knows about it.
No audience.
It's been on for 18 years.
Cult favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Cult hit.
And I know that, you know, you watch some Greys, so I'm just interested. Speaking of Sandra Oh, you know, what are your predictions for the season, for how they might end it? Do you think Sandra might ever come back for, you know, a little cameo? And what are your thoughts on the current season? And, you know, all like talk about kind of some feel like going off the rails and doing all these things to your character. I mean, they're on season 18. Every possible, well, I won't say every possible.
We've done everything.
Everything imaginable so far has happened to these characters. Yeah. They've been attacked by every kind of animal, suffered every kind of crash there can possibly be. So, you know, where do you think, and then what would be a satisfying ending for you?
I think I said it. I think I tweeted it a little while ago, but my ideal Grey's Anatomy ending is we get to the point where Zola is now an intern at Greystone, and that's how it ends.
Oh,
like that's what I
was just thinking that the other day. Yeah. That one episode.
How old is Zola? How many years does that have to run for that to happen?
I think
how old is
there'd
Zola?
have to be a time jump.
Okay.
And it would just it would end with it's literally the first episode of Meredith getting to Seattle Grace, but it's her.
And Zola's interested in medicine.
Yes, good. and instead of we've heard it here if it happens.
Yeah.
instead of Richard giving the speech, it's Meredith. And it's just it's that passing of the baton, and just that I don't need Meredith to die. We don't need that to happen.
No.
We can let but that's the one animal. No, we've had wolves.
Wolves have had their time on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. There was that plane crash that one time. Yeah.
Carol never lets us forget about that plane.
I'll literally never forget it.
No. And then do you think Sandra Oh will be on at some point?
In my wildest of dreams, I want her to so badly. I don't know. I think it's also that kind of thing where it's Sandra's I'm like 7-8 years removed now at this point.
Right.
Like I've moved on.
But
I've done.
Nora.
Yeah, I know.
No.
And
That's what I'm
I mean, they're
saying.
bringing
Show
some
her the
folks
money.
back. I'm just hoping as time goes by, she starts to feel more nostalgic for it rather than like get me
Absolutely.
away from it.
I would think when that show eventually ends, and I would think they want to at this point push Ellen Pompeo to make it to season 20.
Mhm.
Right? We're on 8. We're finishing 18 right now. They were renewed for 19.
Mhm.
There was no like renewed for the final season. It was just renewed for another season. In my mind, as a, if I'm thinking of as an ABC executive, if I'm thinking of the legacy of this show, I think you want to try to push that to 20 because it's huge. And you want to up front be like the final season of Grey's Anatomy.
Mhm.
I personally, unless something completely goes awry, I cannot imagine like we're sitting here in February of next year and they're all of a sudden like, okay, it's the end.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. I think they would want to give it a proper
It's
send
pretty
off.
much up to Ellen, though, right? Isn't
I
it kind of
I
at
would
this point? It's
assume.
up to her how long she
Yeah.
wants to go.
I would
I know.
assume.
Back up the truck.
However,
Man, how much money
would
do you
you,
want?
Right.
Nora, watch a spinoff with Joe? Is
Oh,
there another character you would
Joe-
watch a spinoff of?
Oh.
Oh, I think I would watch a Joe spinoff. I love her now.
Me
I
too.
think I love her now. I think it was so bizarre. I was talking to somebody recently and I was like, isn't it weird to think that Joe has been on this show longer than George ever was?
Yes, it's
Like,
so
longer than-
bizarre.
Isn't that like to think about? She's been on this show longer than some of the like Grey's Anatomy characters everybody talks about. She's so important to the show, and I have loved what they've done with her and where they've taken her and the storylines they've given her. I love Station 19. Like I love the spinoffs into the more of the Seattle world, and I think that's where Private Practice was a favorite of mine.
Mhm.
I've loved that, and I definitely think they could. I mean, listen, they could do a Zola spinoff
Oh man.
years from now,
Oh,
and
I'm
we just
there.
keep the Grace Sloan. Like it could, that show could keep going for as long. I
Yeah.
think as long as they want it. I don't think there's people. I do every week at work. I do like TV moments of the week, and it's like the best TV moments that have happened, and consistently without fail, whenever Grey's Anatomy is included, it's always the best one. Like everybody loves it because whether you watch the show when it was the beginning and you don't watch it anymore, or you're still watching it, you still want to know what's happening because you want to be part of that conversation. So I just always think there's fans of that show that'll keep going, and I really do think it's up to Ellen, and I don't think they would continue without her. I don't personally, because I think about last season when they did the COVID storyline, and those were some of my least favorite episodes without her. Like I
Right.
realized then that this show doesn't work without Meredith. Like I didn't, not to say like Meredith's never been like my favorite character was Lexi. Like she was always
rest
my
in
favorite.
peace.
Rest in peace. So I never considered Meredith like my favorite character on that show. Like obviously I love her, but not my favorite. And last season when they were doing the COVID storyline and there were full episodes where Ellen just was not there, I really was feeling like, oh, this show doesn't work without her. Like it really doesn't. And I think it was kind of Ellen showcasing that this show doesn't work without
Yeah.
me.
And in fact, I love this last episode where it was just her and Richard shooting the shit because
Me too.
Richard accidentally got high.
Yeah.
But it was just a lot of fun to see her
That's what it does.
laughing. And even when she was in the COVID one, she was just either in a coma or on the beach. And, it was very dreamy sequence. And of course, I love
Yes.
seeing everybody come back, but it wasn't her being her or just living her life, however flawed it is. But,
Yeah.
so when you just see her and you just see their back and forth and they're just sitting in a room together, they're not like off on
Yeah.
some grand adventure. It was so much fun just to have those two core characters just hanging out,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't know if you know this, Nora, but I work at a hospital. So it's
Oh, boy.
especially fun for me
Sarah likes to remind everyone.
to watch the show.
You are
And then
loving
as
Grey's
people
Anatomy.
are like, oh, that's so insane. That would never happen. Now they're just getting crazy. I'm like, no. Crazy shit
No,
happens.
no.
Where do you think they're getting this shit? This stuff,
Yeah.
crazy things. People come in with bear claws in their arm in a hospital in Montana. You know, this stuff
Yeah.
happens. So carry on, Grays. That's what I say. And
And
I would totally watch it, Joe. And they're bringing back Addison. I would watch it if like Addison and Joe had like a spinoff of their
Absolutely.
like private OB practice.
Yes.
I'd watch it.
It's just so funny because I think procedurals just will never die on TV. It's like always something that's inherently it's going to be there. Like you look at the NBC lineup and it's just a bunch of Dick Wolf procedurals. Like that's the whole
Darn
lineup.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all they got.
So
My latest go to
like,
bed show when I'm in bed, if I find some seasons 1 through about 12 of Law and Order 13, I'm like, oh, boom, it's on.
Yeah,
I'm going to sleep.
done.
I love
Let's
it.
just
So
do it.
relaxing.
and they'll just live forever. And I think Grey's Anatomy is that for ABC.
Mhm.
Like it is that procedural that they can just keep going as long as they want to.
So Nora, so when you hear of new shows coming out for any given season, what attracts you to a show? Like what makes you say, hey, I want to check out that show to see if it's something I would like or would want to write about? Or is it the actors, showrunners, the topic, what is it? With so many shows on so many networks, like you can't do all of it.
Yeah.
Like what what draws you to a show?
I always actors are always a big thing. Like I always will try a show if a favorite actor of mine is in it. Not to say I love everything my favorite actors have done. And sometimes I'm like, I gave it a shot. Like I tried it. So I always do that. That always motivates me because obviously I had an attachment to them when they were on a show I watched, and now I want to see what they're doing next. So that's always one. My favorite writers, that's always a big one. Like I know Emily Andres is going to do something and I'll be checking whatever she does. And like Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Shonda Rhimes is actually a great example of that, where she doesn't really work on Grey's anymore, but like I'm watching Bridgerton now and I watched Inventing Anna and just like I'm watching all of that stuff because it's in the Shondaland universe. And then topic is always like, you could have the best showrunner and the best actors around, but if it's not a topic I'm interested in, it's very hard for me to keep going. So I'm always looking at that. Most of the shows I watch are obviously like strong female led. That's just the nature of the things I love. And there's never really like I usually check out as much as I can. Or sometimes I miss things. Like you said, there's so much on. And then I'm just kind of like listening to see like what other friends of mine are watching and maybe I should check it out. Even if it's something I didn't originally think I would like and they're like, no, it's like really good. Like you really got to check this out. I did it recently. One of my friends from work loved Mythic Quest on Apple. And I was like, oh no, I don't think this is a show I would like. And they were like, no, you've got to watch it. It's so good. And I ended up loving it. So it's always listening to people because there's some things I just miss. And yeah, it's a wide, there's so much. There's just like, there's so much.
Do your friends tell you like, hey, talk about my show. Talk about my show. Like, do they try to use you to get their show more attention?
Most of the time, I am the one yelling the loudest. Like most of the time I'm like, no, like, can you really get on watching this, please? Like, and I'm like 4 steps ahead of everybody. And
That's
I'm
true.
like,
That's
You
frustrating
got the
for you.
inside scoop on all the good.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I was like, please. And then they'll get to it and they'll be like, you were right. And I was like, yeah, let's like keep on going. So most of the time I'm shoving my niche interests in hopes that other people watch it or other people will learn to watch it. And if they're looking for something, because it's so funny because there's so much out there, but I feel like a lot of people feel like they've watched it all. Like they've
Right, but
watched
you haven't.
but you haven't. There's just so many.
Impossible.
It's impossible. There's just so many other things. So yeah, it's always like looking to see. And I feel like a lot of shows are ending. I think maybe it was the CW cutting a bunch this past week, but I was just like, oh, like in the fall, I'll have to find a lot of new shows. And it's seeing which ones kind of stand out then too.
Yeah.
That's tough too. I've watched Westworld. I'm not like a passionate fan, but I don't even remember when the last season was. And I was like, hey, season 4. I'm like, wasn't that 3 years ago? Yeah. Season 3. TV can be so random. It's like it goes away for a few years. Then all of a sudden, hey, we're back. I'm like, I don't even remember what happened.
Now I'm trying to remember the plot. Yeah, I know.
Right.
I'm just like, this is where we are.
It's tough sometimes. And
It's
I mean,
hard.
back in the day, I remember networks were so freaked out. Like people remembering what time and channel their favorite shows were on. Now, like, when we're back and when we're not on and reruns. Now it's like, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, unless you're TV savvy, you just got to wade through everything to find it. But
there's no there's still the fall network. There's still the fall winter
I hope
network
that never
cycle.
leaves. I still like that. It's very reassuring.
I like it. I like and it's like there's so many other things crammed in throughout the now I do there's not that summer lull. There's still Netflix shows that'll come out and there'll still be stuff that'll get you through that. But I still do enjoy the network cycle of the fall there's a bunch and then you can, if you love it, you'll keep it the whole year and try to. Two of my favorite new shows this year were Ghosts and Abbott Elementary, and those are inherently network shows.
Yeah. I love Abbott Elementary. I just got into it and I watched the whole thing
really good.
in a week. Yeah. Very
it's
excited.
So good.
Yeah.
But it's wild. Those are 2 shows I adored this year, and they're standard network sitcoms. That's what they are. And so it's kind of nice to get 2 of those back because I feel like I didn't have very many of just a network comedy for a while there.
I know they just canceled a bunch too, CBS with stuff I didn't watch. A couple I remember I reading they were after a couple seasons they're gone. So it's they kind of keep trying with network comedy, network procedurals always seem to find a place, but comedies, it's they're so because the comedies that usually have done well lately are just more of the no laugh track kind of cool comedies, which are fun, which I like, but they keep trying to, I don't want the traditional sitcom to ever just go away.
Yeah. We haven't had I feel like Abbott Elementary is why people are we had The Office, we had Parks and Rec, and then we had Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I think Abbott Elementary filled that void. So there's always one of those, but again, it's not it's not we haven't had a laugh track, at least a big one in a little while.
Since Big Bang, I think was the last.
Yeah, I was gonna say Big Bang, probably.
Laugh track kind of show.
Yeah,
and the other ones don't do so well.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't talk some Marvel.
We have to talk Marvel. I was waiting to get to that. Marvel.
But as Wendy gave you before we started recording, she kind of gave you the rule that none of us have seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness yet. So unfortunately, you've been tweeting a lot about it. So I'm sure you would have so much to talk about.
I'll keep it close.
So we can't talk about. But let's talk about. Speaking of sort of chemistry that maybe you didn't see coming, we all really enjoyed Hawkeye.
Yes.
And the Kate Bishop-Yelena relationship. Will they get their own buddy cop? Nora, will they get their own, can we see them together exclusively on
I hope so
screen?
Badly. I would throw all of my money at it. And it reminds me of the Haley and Florence relationship that is now that chemistry really reminds me of Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, where it was these 2 guys, we're going to throw them in a scene together, and because they're really funny behind, they love each other behind the scenes, and let's just see if it works. And it did, and it obviously took off, and they got a whole life of their own. And I think that's a similar thing with Kate and Yelena, where it was these 2 actresses are phenomenal, everybody loves them. Let's see what would happen if we threw them in a room together. And literally their best scene is literally them sitting in a room together. It's literally what all they did. And it was the greatest thing, that show. And it went on forever. It was very long. It went on forever. Not much happened. I would love for them to get their own. I want their own movie so badly. I would just love it. And I think we're clearly getting to that point where I just need more of the women-fronted Marvel movies.
Right.
I don't think we can go back. We can't go back to we're not giving Black Widow a movie for 100 years.
Yeah.
We can't. That was not something I want to go back to. So I just want to. I hope they realize no, people will go to a theater to see Yelena and Kate, or they will watch a show with the two of them, like if it's just the two of them.
Mhm.
So I hope
I
so.
feel like too, like even in theaters, Florence Pugh's big enough now. Like
Yes.
you can put Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld, and I think you're going to get people going
Absolutely.
to that movie without question. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
no concern. Like, but TV now, they've done so much on Disney Plus
Yeah.
that which
yeah.
has been so great. And I know you obviously a big fan of WandaVision, which to me is still number one. I've loved
too.
all of the Marvel movies, but Wanda, it's still on top.
Always.
But I just love what it's done for like characters like Wanda. I think before WandaVision, it was like, okay, it's Wanda. She's in the movies. And then I remember the first Madness trailer I saw when Wanda showed up, the theater went nuts. Everybody loves Wanda now, and she deserves it. The show was fantastic, and I'm excited because she's in it.
It
so I
was
loved, yeah,
It was
Okay.
wild.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
it was wild. I remember I went to a press screening of it, and from Spider-Man No Way Home, I was unhinged in the theater to the point where I'm in it's a press, like I'm at work
Mhm.
basically, and I'm sitting watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and a total stranger leans over to me and goes, "You need this more than I do," and handed me tissues. Like that's what was occurring in that theater. And then I got to the end credits, like where they basically showed the trailer for Multiverse, and I was like, "Oh no!" And I remember then going to an actual screening of it, like when it was out. And you're right, like the applause that she got was so nice to hear, because I remember sitting in a theater 8 years ago watching Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and she's in the post-credit scene, and I'm sitting there going, are they doing the Maximoff? Like, is this happening to me? Like, is this occurring? And being like the only one being like, oh, it's them. Like, guys, we're getting them. It's happening. And I think like Elizabeth Olsen has just taken that character so far. And
Oh yeah.
just like being a Wanda fan, like I love that WandaVision was as big as it was, because I think it proved like this kinds of stories the MCU can tell, and they can be female fronted, and everybody will, like my younger brother like loved it, and it's just like it's nice to see that kind of thing too.
I love that they've all been so different. I mean, you had one, which to me was such a different type of show, and it was fantastic.
Out
and
of
then
nowhere,
you got the dudes buddy action, but with a lot of depth to it. But action guys, Hawkeye, and then what was next? Loki after
was
that, which was kind of weird, kind of to me like 70s vibe, kind of cool, all over the sci-fi kind of thing. And then Hawkeye was like, and I remember thinking, I am so not invested in a Hawkeye show. And
I
then
remember thinking the
trailer comes out.
Why?
It's Christmas.
Why?
It's Haley Steinfeld, and then especially when you heard Florence was going to show up as Yelena, I'm like, I cannot wait for this, and I loved it. They pulled it off. They made me invested in a Hawkeye show, and it was amazing.
I literally went.
Go
ahead.
No, please.
No, I just remember them announcing Hawkeye and me being like, am I really going to watch a Hawkeye show?
Yeah.
I was like, I will. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I will be watching it. But I was like, oh, really? And then, like, it was just like they knew everything they needed to do.
Yes.
Like, because now retroactively watching, like after Hawkeye, I did, like, a rewatch of all of, like, Wanda's movies before Multiverse, and, like, going back and rewatching Age of Ultron even, and Jeremy Renner's scenes with Elizabeth Olsen in that, like, they just pack a lot more punch, and I'm like, maybe I did care about this guy more than I thought I did, and cared about his relationships a little more, because going into Hawkeye, all I was thinking of was like, Natasha died for this guy.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And I like that they dealt with that too.
Right.
And then
and Yelena called that it like was basically my sister died for you.
That's true. Yeah.
And I was like, Yelena and I are on the same page. Great, cool.
We are, Yelena. Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what Marvel is just really good at. They're, they have all this big sandbox of toys they get to play with, and they're, pulling characters that are kind of been on the side up front and center. And like, Wanda now is a huge part of the MCU. She's at the forefront. Yeah. Again, they made us love Hawkeye. Yeah. And they're bringing these new characters together and spotlighting them. It's brilliant. It's like, as a strategy, you give a character their own show, and then you put that character in a movie, everyone's going to want to go see the movie. Like, just as a business, MCU really knows what the hell they're doing. And obviously they have a plan. That's what we always talk about, when we're complaining about Star Wars, is that who's in charge? There's no plan. There's clearly a plan in MCU.
Absolutely.
And that's like, oh, thank God. We're in such good hands with the
yeah, and everybody knows. I just remember like the Wanda of it all it's just so nice that they were able to give, like you said, like this character that maybe had a total of 10 minutes of screen time in Infinity War and like this big, massive, ensemble thing, but you're able to pluck her out and be like, oh, here, let's just watch this whole show. And what's interesting about it is I assumed everybody would have watched WandaVision and then you'd go to Multiverse of Madness. And I had somebody tweet at me the other day when I tweeted about Wanda, like Elizabeth's performance in WandaVision makes you really appreciate what she was able to do in Multiverse. And somebody tweeted at me, was like, because of this tweet, I went and watched WandaVision for the first time. Like I saw Multiverse of Madness and then I was like, oh, maybe I would like that show.
Yeah.
And then I went back and it was phenomenal. So it's like everything's working so hand in hand and it's like so nice.
Yeah.
How do
that
you
you're
not
able
already
to,
watch
like-
that?
That was my question.
I'm like you, like I'll watch whatever. At this point, Marvel, Star Wars, Disney Plus, you roll it out. Even
I'm
if
like,
it's
great.
something I'm not excited about,
Yeah.
like a character, you've
You
convinced
trust
me
you
that
trust
there's
it
reason to
now.
watch.
Yeah.
We trust you.
They've
Exactly.
earned our
completely.
trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
any film, any TV show, I'm already there for either one of those anyway. But
Me too.
they've just, man, what was life like before Disney Plus? That's what I want to know, because I don't.
Like,
It's barely even been around, not that
Boring.
long, right?
no.
Just
And
over
I
a
watched
year?
so much on it.
Mhm.
I watched
Yeah.
so much on it. We were talking about it at work a month or so ago, and it was like, if you had to keep one streaming service, what would it be? And I was like, I
Wow.
think I'm keeping Disney Plus. Like, I don't think I would have said
Yeah.
that a couple years ago because of just like Netflix had so many great things.
Right.
And I was like, I think I would keep Disney Plus by the nature of just alone Marvel and Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
like based on
100%.
that.
Yeah.
And just like the shows they've been able to do and the old content I can rewatch. It's like wild.
Oh, I think I'm there too. Netflix, you'll fall in love with a show and they'll whack
And
it
then
off
they'll-
after
That's
2 years.
my
So
thing.
don't get invested in Netflix.
I was like, I can't really trust Netflix.
No,
Mhm.
not anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, it's Disney. What have you thought about the Star Wars shows? I mean, pretty much all they've had so far is Mandalorian and Boba, which
was gonna
Mandalorian
say.
has launched 1,000 Grogu collectibles, and I love
Yeah.
Mandalorian. Boba, I felt was a little off the mark. It wasn't as good as I had hoped it would be. The best episodes were the Mandalorian.
That was me.
So I think that was just a, misstep of like
Yeah.
story, whatever their overall thing. I mean, I watched it, I liked it fine, but obviously Kenobi coming up. I mean, I cannot
Did you get a
wait.
screener for
I
that,
can't
Nora?
wait for that one.
Did-
I haven't. So
Okay.
Disney and Marvel,
Oh.
Disney and Marvel, they obviously, as you can imagine, hold things
Well,
very close to the
yeah.
chest.
Mhm.
They hold them until the last possible second, and then they'll give them to you.
Okay.
So yeah, I haven't seen Kenobi yet, or else I would be like, oh god, now I'm alone with my thoughts
Right.
for that as well.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for Kenobi. Boba, like you said, my favorite episodes were the Mandalorian episodes, so I basically would have just liked another season of the Mandalorian in
Yeah.
meantime. But yeah, they've been good. Mandalorian I do love. Like I think that's been really well plotted and has done some really good stuff. And I'm excited for what they, continue to do. And hopefully we'll get some good movies again and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
They just don't have the
man. Hit or
plan.
miss.
Isn't Kevin Feige? Is it Feige? Isn't he involved somehow in a Star Wars movie coming up? And
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
somewhere, I think he's got something. But if
He's
Star
got
Wars
something.
had
And I
half the planning that
And
Marvel
well,
did.
and like Marvel, like Kevin said a couple weeks ago that they are going on a retreat to plan the next 10 years of Marvel.
Oh my
Like,
god!
Wow.
So it's like,
So,
and they had
talk
done
about a
it.
dream
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, and they had done that 10 years ago to plan where we are now.
So they'll be like
Well,
in
that's a
phase
like-
8
that's
by
a
then, or
plan.
phase 5.
Yeah.
I don't
They-
plan my whole life that meticulously.
Smoke a bunch of weed, just like,
Yeah,
what if we
exactly.
did
What if we
this?
did this? Like, I can't imagine, like, and Kevin was really instrumental in WandaVision. I can't imagine him being like, okay, I have this idea.
Yeah.
Hear me out. It'll be different sitcoms. Everybody, it'll be weird at first, but I swear everybody will be on board by the end. Like, we'll just make it work.
Yeah.
It's like
And that
wild.
was, I love that they said, yeah, we'll try that. That would be great.
Let's just
That'll
do
work.
it. And I think it
Yeah.
was interesting that because originally Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first Disney Plus show out of the gate, and then everything got switched around, and then they were like, we've got to do WandaVision first. And even that by nature was a massive swing of being like, it's the first Marvel show on Disney Plus ever, and it's the most out of the box so far. Like, let's hope everybody likes it.
Yeah, I mean, when the first trailers or teaser came out, it's like, I don't know
What is
I'm
this show
watching.
about? Yeah.
What's happening?
I don't like to be like, haha, I told you so that often, but I remember the trailer dropping and me being like, oh, Elizabeth Olsen is going to do some Tatiana Maslany level acting in this. And people ripped me apart on Twitter. Like, they were like, there is absolutely no way she's up there with Tatiana Maslany. And I'm like, no, like, just wait. I swear. Like, and obviously it ended up being this Emmy Award worthy, acting performance she gave. Which is just like so fun to see. The WandaVision was so big. And like, I talk about like what we were talking about earlier, like changing the plan. Like, I'm assuming now Kevin Feige is sitting in a room going, how do we keep Elizabeth Olsen?
Yeah.
Like, how do we keep her? She's become the, like you said, like the applause she got. Most people went to Multiverse of Madness for her. And it's like, how do we, like, she's now the, like, Chris Evans and the Robert Downey Jr. going forward. So how do we keep her? Like, let's figure that out. So I'm assuming that's kind of what we were saying. Like, I'm assuming they've had to deviate from whatever plan they've thought of to hopefully, and even the Hawkeye, like Yelena and Kate, like that's another one where it's like, I'm sure he's like, wait, we got to capitalize on this. People will go see them, hang out.
Throw Wanda in there with those two.
Oh, I would.
Oh my God.
Well.
And she just kind of watches comments on the chemistry between them. Like, what's going on here?
I would die.
A lot of side.
Much credit to Marvel though for like doing such a good job with casting, not just overall at the beginning for the main ones, but like you said, like there was like a little thing at the end of one of the films where you saw, I think, Wanda, and like sometimes these parts would start pretty insignificantly and then develop as they went, and they got such good actors and all across the board where you take any of these smaller parts that started off smaller, stick them in their own shows, and you're good.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like even thinking about how they're doing a Maya spinoff from Hawkeye. Like, she was a big part of that show, but think about how much her character's gonna be able to grow in its own show, and people will find it because she was a new character in Hawkeye, but people loved her, and now she gets her own show to really explore what's going on. And that's kind of what's nice about the shows, where like even She-Hulk, like Tatiana's getting her whole 6 episodes to do, like really have you fall in love with that character. So in the future, if she pops up in a movie, you're like, oh my God, there she is. Like, she's back. Yeah. So that's always cool too.
Man, Marvel is just a machine of good.
They know what they're doing.
They really do.
Yeah.
So what are you excited about? What's coming out that you can't wait to see? And then not, because you get screeners and stuff. So you've talked about Stranger Things. I'm a big Stranger Things fan, so it sounds like you've already got some screeners of that.
I do.
Aside from things you've already seen that aren't out yet, what's coming up that you're excited about?
Obviously, I'm very excited about Thor: Love and Thunder in July. That's going to come up.
Cool. Yeah.
That I'm really excited about. Miss Marvel, I'm sure, is going to be great. I'm really excited for those. And then I love The Umbrella Academy. That's another show I really enjoy. I'm excited to see that coming up. And then just like more not like comic booky stuff, like Only Murders in the Building. I loved season 1.
So
I'm like,
good.
yeah, I'm really excited for season 2. Hacks is airing right now, which like season 2 is just as good as season 1. And I'm so happy. So yeah, those are kind of the big ones right now. And then there's some couple other like some movies and stuff. I feel like there's a lot of TV coming out this summer, more than usual. And I'm excited to. The Netflix show First Kill, that's coming up. It's a queer love story, and it's about a vampire that falls in love with a vampire hunter. They're two women.
Okay.
Yeah, that comes out in June.
Lots of angst and drama to be had.
I'm just saying, it'll be. I'm sure I will be. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to see what they do with it.
And what's it airing on?
Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So don't get attached, but enjoy
Enjoy
seasons
it
1
while
and
it's
2.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then they'll rip it away from you brutally.
Yes, I will never forgive them for one day at a time, and that's where we're at.
Well,
yeah.
I'll never forgive them for the 08. That's my flag I plant with
yes.
Netflix.
There's so many.
Ripped their heart out. What's your
Every time.
favorite show of all the shows you watched? You gotta what's top or film and TV show top of the heap.
Oh, top of the
That's a
heap.
very hard question.
I'm not asking for a top 3. I mean top. There's one. Just
I
like
know.
Make a list, Nora. Make a list.
maybe it is harder to pick one. Maybe it is harder to pick one. I don't know.
It's hard for me to pick one.
I mean, I will the one I've been watching the longest is it's Grey's Anatomy is like one I've been watching forever. Yeah, like that's one. But if somebody asked me, my favorite show of all time, like right now, I would say WandaVision would be up there. Like I think that's got to be for me. And then like I love Grey's Anatomy. Killing Eve is always Wynonna. Like those are like I think like those are the top of the top for TV shows. And then there are certain shows that's so funny because there's certain shows I love the whole show, like Schitt's Creek and Wynonna. Like I love the whole show. But then there's certain shows where it's like, well, I really like these 2 characters from this show. And then I think about that a lot. Like I was I loved Arrow inherently for Felicity Smoke. Like was like I loved what Emily did with that character. Speaking of like derailment and chemistry and everything. So that's Arrow's always got a soft spot. I loved The Walking Dead when it was, talk about a show that's overstayed its welcome. Like Glenn Rhee is one of my favorite TV characters of all time. I love Stephen Yeun and everything he's done since. So I always think about that too. But like in terms of like best shows, like I think it's Grey's obviously through and through, considering I'm still watching it live every Thursday. There's no way I can't think of that. And then Schitt's Creek, How I Met Your Mother was always a big one. Wynonna always has a soft spot because I love it.
It's hard to choose.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. I'm like, everybody's like number 1, and I'm like how about 10? Like top 10? Because then I keep thinking of it. Like I'm like, oh wait, I love Friday Night Lights. Like that's up there in my mind. Like
yeah, but sometimes your top 10 ends up your top 15 crammed into the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the top 10 within the last 5 years, or like what's top 10 all time.
And then I forget one I watched like 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh, but I love I always think about like I love Freaks and Geeks. Like that's one of my favorite shows. But like, am I saying that's my top 10 currently because I haven't rewatched it in a while?
Right.
Yeah.
So much list content, you see, just different
So
time frames.
I should keep a list.
I
should keep a list of all the TV shows I say are my favorite and see if they stay in the top 10 list.
Do a study. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to put a show in there because like, but it's always been in there, and I feel bad taking it out.
Yeah.
So it'll give you the last place.
Yeah.
You're still in
Exactly. Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't want to hurt its feelings.
No, it meant a lot to me at the time.
Yeah, and then
Facts
they'll
of
know
life.
I hurt their feelings.
Exactly. Well, Nora, I feel like we could do this for another
It
hour.
was so much fun.
Will you come back sometime? We
I
can talk
will.
about when new stuff drops. We can have you back and we can just chat and chat and chat.
Absolutely. I'm always around, and I love chatting about this kind of thing. It's so fun.
So do we.
Perfect.
We do it every week.
I love it.
That's true, we do. Obviously Buzzfeed. I think people know how to find Buzzfeed,
Yes.
but do you want to what do you want to plug?
You can just honestly, like, all my stuff on BuzzFeed's always there. That's where I like all of my celeb interviews and stuff like that. And then Twitter, obviously, at Nora Dominick. It's very hard to find. So difficult. That's where a lot of the nerdy yelling occurs. So like I apologize in advance. But that's where the hyperfixation flailing always. Like you'll know what I'm really into at the moment because there's just like a string of tweets about it.
Well, I was,
amazing.
that's
And then
what I
I'll
was
move
looking.
on. Yeah.
I was looking
and then
at all
I'll
the
move
Wanda.
on.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't even
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, we have to scroll, keep
I was
scrolling,
like,
keep
and then we'll move
scrolling.
on. If you go back a few weeks, it'll be like, oh, this is when she was rewatching this. I understand. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like Twitter is a time capsule.
It really is. Yeah.
For better or for worse sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, Nora Dominick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
This has been
much.
so much fun. We will absolutely invite you back, and hopefully we can do this again.
I would love to. Thanks, guys.
And we're back.
Nice.
That was
I
fun.
didn't want to say goodbye.
No.
No,
It's
but
tough.
there's just like TV is a vast and wide medium, and there's so many things. I feel like any show we threw out there should be like, oh yeah, she's when it's your job. But I like it's so great she gets to write and tweet and all that about things she's passionate about.
It must be tough when kind of living in your own world when you've seen all the, screeners and exciting stuff. You can't talk about it yet.
God.
She's the one like her friends know she's a vault. Like if they have a secret, they're like, she holds the spoilers back for weeks at a time. I can tell her the secret and feel pretty confident.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how hard it was the end of Xena when I saw the finale a week early.
Oh, that's right.
And then I had no one to talk to about it. I didn't spoil it for anybody. It was like, you just want to, especially like that. I mean, with her, it's kind of her job. She does it all the time, but like, as opposed to just, it's that one show that you talk to all your friends.
Yeah, but like the Wynonna Earp finale, that must have been tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially finales and like Killing Eve. She was like, I knew this was going to go bad, but what if it's, I bet it's a fun job. Do you think you'd get sick of TV? I didn't even ask about, do you ever get sick of watching TV? Just like, I want to take a vacation and with no TV in the room.
Right.
I'd get sick of writing about it, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Having to.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
See, we could have kept going with her because now I'm thinking
Yeah.
more things. Like, whenever you're watching TV now, are you able to just enjoy it? Or are you always kind of thinking about things to write about
That's a
or
good
tweet
question.
about or talk about?
Should we call her
Yes.
back? Should we get her back?
Yeah. Nora,
Come back.
we have more questions.
We'll have her back. For sure gonna have her back. Yeah, we could. I mean, I feel like we could talk to her every week. And we didn't, because of our awesome conversation with Nora. We're not going to do a Gentleman Jack recap. Hacks, as she mentioned, is back. We're going to save it. We're not forgetting. We're just we're going to push some of that stuff down the road a little bit.
Yeah, and then we'll have
Maybe.
a couple episodes to talk about.
Yeah.
exactly.
And maybe some of us have not gotten a chance to catch up yet. So that doesn't help too. I've been out of town. I'm not slacking. I've just been out of town.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to watch.
They don't
all this
have
stuff.
TV in Texas. I wasn't able to watch.
That
We
explains.
just live in log like cabins and
That
stuff.
explains
No
a
TV, no technology. No, this week I'm getting back to it. Just been busy.
Awesome. All right. I think that's our show.
Is that our show? All right. Well, good to see you ladies again. And let's do it again next week.
Okay.
But till then, if you want to hang out, we're on the Twitter at Snot Podcast with 1D.
Or on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, by the way, this is Tara. I'm still kicked off Facebook.
Oh, I was going to ask.
It's still under review. So if anyone out there works for Facebook, I've been trying to contact them. When your thing is under review, because I posted once in like 4 months, there's no way to reach them. You can't log in and like go to the help center. You
Right.
can't. It's just a blank. It's like a screen that says you're under review. So I can't get a hold of anybody. It's been weeks now. What the hell?
That's weird.
So Facebook and Instagram at She Nerds Out Podcast. That's where I was going with that.
You can send us an email to shenerds@gmail.com. Or if you go to our website, shenerds.out.com, you can send us a voicemail. You can leave us a message. You can buy us a beer. You can look at our merch. We have some merch up. Good stuff. People are buying it. We see it. We see it flying off the shelves. And you can catch up on all episodes. And yeah, go to shenerds.out.com. There's lots to snop about.
Where we hang out all the time. We live online
Yeah, we do.
inside shenerds.com.
Yeah, it's roomy.
We're all AI. We're not even real. We're AI. Bots.
Live from your trousers.
Have we not mentioned that before, that we're not actually real people?
Well, who did they meet at the Z-Night retreat? Those were
Our
actors.
avatars.
Our
Yeah.
avatars in
Exactly.
the real world.
Meat puppets.
No.
Meat puppets.
Ew. Anyway, we'll say goodbye now. See you next week. Until then, she nerds out.
She nerds out. We're girls that like dirty things. Dirty things.
Hello and welcome.
Oh.
Oh, come on.
Sorry, start
God
that
damn
over.
it.